Welcome to We Chats, a space for people with diabetes, where we bring you the experts. My name is Will, and I'm a diabetes specialist dietitian and co-founder of We Nutrition. And here at We Chats, we love having relaxed and fun conversations, combining the diabetes research, the experience of people living with diabetes, and the expertise of people working with diabetes. Welcome to this episode where we're going beyond the injection and unlocking psychological, I nearly said physiological, but it's psychological capability with weight loss injections with Dr. Nikita Rowley. Welcome, everybody, and especially welcome to Nikita. Thank you for joining us this evening.
No, thank you, Will. Thanks for asking me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today.
Excellent. Well, Nikita and I met a few weeks ago, and we worked on a project together. And I was just so sort of intrigued and fascinated by what you were saying. I thought, I need more. I need more, more, more.
Yeah.
And that's how we came here today. And we know that weight loss injections are sort of branching outside the world of diabetes.
hmm
So this episode is a little bit different because, yes, we're thinking about diabetes, but potentially also talking to people who don't have diabetes as well. And Nikita, if people are just meeting you for the first time today, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be in this space?
Yeah, thank you, Will. Yes, I'm Nikita Rowley. I'm currently based at Coventry University, where I am a researcher within physical activity, sport and exercise science. As well as that, I'm the course director for sport and exercise psychology, and lecturer in psychology. And my research area is predominantly in physical activity, exercise, and health. More specifically focusing on behavior change. So, how can we use health behavior change to enhance and improve people's lives, their well-being? I very much started this journey within sort of fitness arena probably about 14, 15 years ago. And as I went through my degrees in sports psychology and health psychology, I was sort of introduced to this world of behavior change. And it was something I was applying in a role as a researcher at the same time as my master's. And I just found it so fascinating how we can sort of really improve adherence, even uptake or longer term sustainable change via a whole host of different frameworks, which I will probably go into a little bit more detail in a bit. But more recently, I've sort of stepped into the world of GLP-1s and the research behind that. How can we create this wraparound support that is full of educational resources, provides practical tips, sort of low effort, high reward type of techniques to provide people with that support. So when they are using GLP-1s, they're thinking about their lifestyle more holistically. So are we looking at trying to enhance people's physical activity levels? Are we just going to reduce their sedentary behaviors? And then it does also include things like diet, sleep, and other sort of lifestyle habits. So that's where I am right now. There's a whole host of research going on within this area right now. It seems to be extremely popular. There's so many people wanting to develop educational resources, wraparound support for people using GLP-1s. So yes, I've been having some fantastic conversations with a whole host of different people, organisations, commissioners, stakeholders about how we can support people using weight loss injections to make sure that they're focusing on sustainable long-term weight loss, and most of that comes through behaviour change.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I'm so glad that you're here with us this evening, and we get to sort of just glean a little bit of your amazing knowledge base. And it sounds like you're absolutely rushed off your feet. And we know there's been a huge rise in people using Mounjaro or
Yes.
Ozempic recently.
Mhm.
It is, as you say, very popular,
Yeah.
but it is, having that vision of the sustainability and the long-term success. So, Nikita, if I were to ask you to speak to people who are attending this evening, or maybe
Hmm.
people that are going to be listening to this as a
Yeah.
podcast in weeks to come, over the next sort of, 30, 40 minutes, what is going to be like the main takeaway that that person has from being here with us?
Good question. So for me, I think it's really important to focus on those smaller, easier habits that you can create. Asking somebody, for example, I don't know, for example, start exercising every week and sustain that for the rest of your life. It's difficult. It's not going to happen in reality. So for me, it's looking at how do we build in these small little habits to make change a little bit easier for people. There's no point setting them up to fail by giving them, I don't know, an exercise prescription that they must attend 3 times a week, for example, to build up that behavior. It's about thinking about what you're currently doing or what you're currently not doing. So, how can we make those small changes to everyday life that could then help impact sort of sustainable change as you sort of go through this journey moving forward?
Fantastic. And as you said, I wrote it down in front of me. Low effort, high
Hmm.
reward.
Yeah.
That is music to my ears. And
Hmm.
it's, again, as you say, the small, easier habits,
Yeah.
it just makes me feel warm inside, which is is really good. Excellent. So, as people are attending this evening, we do have some questions pre-submitted, but if you do have questions as we're going through or any comments, please feel free to drop them into the comments box. But equally, if you are listening to this after this evening and you're thinking, I know someone who would really like to hear this, who wants low effort, high reward, they want to know about how to build in those small, sustainable habits, please feel free to share this with that person. I always love it when people recommend podcasts to me because I think, oh, you've listened to something and thought of me. That's
Yeah.
really nice. So, Nikita, let's jump in.
Yes.
Um, the term psychological capability,
Hmm.
can you break that down for us a little bit, please?
Yes, sure. So it can sound quite complex and quite confusing if you're not necessarily from the world of behavior change, and that is completely fine. When we talk about psychological capability, what we're referring to is a person's mental and cognitive ability to perform an actual behavior. So breaking that down even further, it's about whether somebody has the knowledge, the understanding, the mental skills, the memory, the attention, and the decision-making capacity needed to carry out that behavior. So when we talk about knowledge, for example, it's whether does an individual understand what to do and why they should do that.
Mhm.
Cognitive skills, for example, that could link to making a plan, thinking about problem solving. So if something goes wrong that day, it could be that you feel very low and you don't want to stick to that exercise plan or what you was originally going to have for dinner. So how can we solve problems to make sure that mentally you are okay, especially if you're dealing with a bad day. But then also, if somebody was to slip up, knowing what to do to get back on track and not to be so difficult or hard on themselves for maybe messing something up in their minds. It also links to memory and attention. So being able to remember to do the behavior itself because we all do it. We all say we're going to do something, and then it could be 10 minutes, an hour, the next day, and you completely forget that you said you were going to do something. Things get in the way. There may be other stressors that then make you forget about doing that. So that's completely fine, but it's knowing about how to get back on track. And then sort of the managing sort of the self-regulation. So managing any impulses. As I said, you have a bad day, so you think, oh, I'm going to go get a takeaway tonight. So how do you stop that impulse and maybe think about it in a different way? So how can I have the best of both worlds, having something nice to eat, but at the same time making sure that I'm not sort of not going against what I said I was going to do. And that also links to sort of emotions and making sure that you stay on track.
Wow. Wow, you've just blown my mind. There's it's there's so much there, isn't there, to
There
unpack?
is. There's a lot.
And
Mhm.
and you say memory. I was like, I need to write this down. I wrote down memory, attention, problem solving,
hmm
managing impulses, emotional regulation, how to get back on track. And
hmm
I think I'm sure a lot of people here are sort of, or people that are listening are nodding and agreeing because we've all been there. We've had
Yeah.
a rubbish day.
hmm
We didn't bring an umbrella and we got soaked on our way to work. And then we had some really tricky conversations.
Yeah.
And we leave and we get home and we just want a hug.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's a physical hug,
hmm
sometimes it's a food hug,
It is
sometimes,
definitely.
it's curling up on the sofa and
Yeah.
just pulling up your favorite blanket.
Yeah, and just watching that series that you've been dying to watch all week. Yeah, we've all been there. It happens to all of us, and that's completely fine. And we do, if you want to phrase it as maybe slip up a little bit from time to time, but that's fine as long as you know how to get back on track. That's
Mm,
the main thing is knowing and recognizing that, okay, I've not had a great day today. I haven't stuck to what I was going to do, but tomorrow's going to be a better day. So, and not getting hung up on it and feeling guilty
yeah. You just, I mean, it's almost describing the human condition that,
completely.
we are not machines. We
hmm
don't turn on, do our task and turn off.
Yeah.
We turn on and do our best. And
Yeah.
sometimes the task
Yeah.
happens and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. It's completely that.
Okay, okay. So, it's you've described so many skills here and sort of tools. And there are
hmm
some people that I kind of think of in my mind. I'm thinking of friends and family. And they're the type of people who seem to have they have it all together, and they're doing well with the food or they're eating what they want, they're doing the exercise, they're 10,000 steps. Are people born with all these skills and tools just like packaged up and ready to go? And if people aren't born with them,
hmm
can they be developed in some way?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, people are not born with these behaviors. They're things that people learn to do. And some people say it's down to willpower, but I don't think it's always down to willpower. I think it depends on the toolkit you have available in front of you and how you apply that. So yeah, definitely. I think with the correct education or awareness, everyone can learn these different skills. And yeah, I do think it goes further than willpower because I do hear quite commonly, oh, I don't have the willpower, or how do you have the willpower to do that? Oh, I can't do that. And that's pretty common. And there's days when everyone says they don't have the willpower, but I don't think it links to that specifically. I think it goes beyond that. And like I say, having that toolkit of options, I'd like to say. So, for example, in the past, when I've worked with individuals about trying to get them a little bit more active, it's not about just saying, right, you need to go to the gym 3 times a week, go and do this boring workout, and make sure you stick to it. It's about saying, well, okay, tomorrow you might not be in the mood to go to the gym, so why not go and do some gardening? So reduce the sedentary behaviors, just get yourself up moving. Go and do a bit of gardening. It could be that you could go for a long walk with a friend and have a chat. You could have a walking meeting at work.
Mhm.
It could be that you just want to go home, go onto YouTube and put on a yoga video and just do a little bit of yoga or something a little bit lighter than what you're normally doing. And I think it's preparing people and giving them that toolkit of options so that then they can say, well, actually, today I want to go and do that. I don't feel up to a gym workout, but I'm going to do something at home. So it's having that toolkit available for them whenever they need to mix it up a little bit.
Absolutely. That sounds great. It sounds like, lots of different behaviors that you
Yes.
can pivot
hmm
around to
Definitely.
achieve the roughly the same outcome,
hmm
but it's just having that ability it's almost that stopping, isn't it? And going, right, okay, that's not working.
Yeah.
Let me do
hmm
X, Y, or Z instead.
Yeah.
Um, Since we're on the topic of behaviors here now, I normally
Mhm.
do this a little bit earlier, but since we're talking about behaviors, we've actually got a bit of interactivity this evening with our attendees. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to be using a Slido. So, for people that are attending this evening, if you are on your computer, then you might want to open up a new browser window. If you're on a secondary screen and you have your phone available, what you can do is scan the screen with your camera phone and it will open up this Slido for you. If you are on your phone, then that's fine. You just open up an internet browser or a different browser window and go to slido.com. But we want to know about your behaviors. We've just started talking about them here, but they always say two heads are better than one. We've got more than two heads here. Let's use this
Mhm.
opportunity. And hopefully you can see this on your screen now. There is a Slido. So if you go to slido.com and you type in number 2051961, then you're presented with a question. What behaviors do you find support a weight loss injection journey? I wonder if there are any specifics that people are finding really work for them.
From a researcher's perspective, I do love asking people to share their insights because for me as a researcher, obviously I look at all the evidence, sort of my head's in the thick of it with all the latest research papers. But yeah, I think it's brilliant when you can get sort of to have that conversation with the populations that we're sort of working with to actually see what is working in reality, which I think is brilliant.
Fantastic. So, when this question is posed, Nikita, are there
Mhm.
sort of certain behaviors that spring to mind for you?
Yes, there are, but I don't want to mention any just yet. Yeah, I'll see what people come up with. But yeah, great start there. Goal setting, routine, and structure.
And you've already mentioned some of them as well. Um, I'm getting a sense of resilience, almost that ability to.
Most definitely.
I've said pivot, but maybe I might say words like bounce back. Um,
Yeah.
Someone's written prompts. That's
hmm
fantastic. Excellent. Okay. And do you think is it fair to say, from your research, from
hmm
your review of the literature, are
hmm
there some behaviors that are really specific to weight loss injections?
Well, the research around that it's quite current and it's quite new. And as we know, we will see sort of a bit of a lag in the publications in terms of those peer-reviewed papers. There are papers that are starting to come out with some of the evidence. But when we're looking at weight loss in more general terms, it's exactly what the people have said here. So prompts, goal setting, having a routine and a structure to follow. These are really common evidence-based behavior change techniques. And having a routine and structure is fantastic. And the goal setting can help you stick to that. But for me, it's about having that toolkit just in case things don't go the way you want it to. And that routine, there's a break in the routine or something happens. And I think it's important to look at other behavior change techniques that could be used to maybe get people back on track.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen now. Thank you, everyone that's participated there. That's awesome.
I think that was quite good there. Someone put that the weight loss journey is not easy, and it's not. It's not easy for anybody. It is complex and it will be so individualized to that individual.
Hmm.
So they'll have different reasons why they're doing it. They'll have different coping strategies. They will need to do different behaviors. So it is so complex. And so, yeah, it has to be a personalized journey. And certain behavior change techniques will work for some people, whereas other behavior change techniques might work for someone else. So it's not all about saying, well, this is the best behavior change technique. This will work for everyone because it might not. And as I said, I keep going back to it, that toolkit, that menu of options, it's important to have that.
Well, that's my next question gone then, because I was going to say, what are the top three? What are the top five? But
Yeah.
it sounds like the top five is going to be different for every person. The top three is going to be different for
Hmm.
every person.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is that the skills on getting back on track, those, in your opinion, are some of the most important skills.
Yeah. I think so. I think there's two really important sort of time points in anyone's journey into weight loss. It's right at the beginning when they start to contemplate the thought of change. Sometimes what we find is that something may have happened where an individual has now had to think about, well, actually, I might have to lose weight, or maybe they've had a health scare. And they need to maybe reduce their weight. They have to try and get their blood pressure down to sort of a healthy level. So it's looking at their sort of when they contemplate change, and then that's that first initial thought about, okay, maybe I need to do something a little bit differently. And then for me, when something goes wrong, and then someone, well, they may say fallen off the tracks, and they failed. There's people who have feelings of failure. It's not that. It's just that maybe you had a bad day and there was a little slip up, and it's thinking about, okay, how do we get them back into that zone, thinking forward rather than thinking about what's happened over the last couple of days or the last week. Like you say, everyone is human. Everyone trips up, does the odd thing that they wish they didn't. And yeah, I think those are the two time points where we really need to make sure that people do feel supported. That firstly, as I said, when they're contemplating change, where do they go? Who do they see? And how do they make change? And then if someone slips up, how can we get them back on track and feel supported?
Amazing. So you talk about the starting point,
Hmm.
the contemplation.
Yeah.
I often, as a dietitian working in a clinic or with groups of
Hmm.
people, sometimes I talk about this as the launch pad,
Yeah.
the reason for being here, for being
Yeah.
in the
Hmm.
consultation room or coming to the clinic. Um, and it's interesting, I speak to lots of people about weight loss injections and maybe a weight loss journey.
Hmm.
And I'm quite often, I don't know if I'm still surprised because I've been doing this for a while, but
Hmm.
it seems to me that a lot of the people I speak to, that launch, that reason for change, a lot of the time it can be quite negative.
Yes.
And someone is
Hmm.
trying to take a negative, so like a health scare, for
Yeah.
example, or maybe it's the worry of starting medication or an increase in
Yeah.
medication.
Hmm.
The person is trying to turn that negative thing into a positive thing.
Yes, definitely.
Do you think that's a really common sort of thing in the literature, or
It
what's your
is.
point?
Yeah, no, completely. It is. I think when people have a health scare or a family member has a health scare, it then gets them to think a little bit differently about their own lives and how they could improve it. Um, for me, as a sort of a behavior change specialist, if we are working with individuals where we're looking at that point of change, it's looking at how can we turn this into a positive experience, so that they aren't feeling negative, that they don't feel like they're failed at something. It's just looking at how can we make these changes to so for example, when I am working with individuals, I get them to think about their own values.
Mm,
What is important about this journey for them? Why do you want to make change? And for some people, it could be that they want to be around for their grandchildren. They want to be able to go play in the park with them. So that is something that they hold very closely to them. And then that's kind of the mechanism behind it, in terms of making that change. That is something that we can say, okay, then if we're thinking about this, what should we do as the first step, and get them into sort of having that conversation, and creating sort of like a shared decision with that individual. So informing them of their maybe choices of what we can do, but then asking them to link it back to their core values and sort of help make that decision for themselves as well.
Yeah. So it's almost like identifying the why.
Yes, completely.
What's the
Hmm.
purpose?
Yes.
And that the example that you gave there is a really lovely positive one.
Hmm.
The idea of being able to, be fit and well enough to
Yeah.
run around after the children or the
Hmm.
grandchildren. Um, so it sounds like that'd be quite a nice exercise for someone on a weight loss injection journey to do, to sit down. And I feel like there's a power, you can see me here with the pen. I am such a believer that there's a power with the pen or the pencil, just getting pen to paper
Yeah.
and writing things
Hmm.
down. Um, so would that almost be a bit of a tool there to say,
Yeah.
write down why, write down your values, explore it, and sort of look around.
Yeah, no, completely. And one of the behavior change techniques, that can be used is commitment.
Mm,
So getting an individual to commit to something. So what you can do if you're thinking about going on this journey is writing down what are the core values that you hold. Why do you want to do this? But then also making sure that you're accountable for it. So it could be like a positive affirmation, a positive statement that you are going to explore this as a journey. And it can be different levels of sort of the affirmation. So to begin with, you are going to look at this in terms of a journey and think about how I can make positive changes in my life that will then link to that value, and sort of build on it from there. So later on as well. Say if somebody thinks that they're failing or they haven't kept to their diet or physical activity regime, you can just sort of remind them of their core values. Get that piece of paper out. I think it's important to get the pen and paper out myself, and yeah, just have it and put it up on the wall or on the fridge so that every time you go in the kitchen to make a cup of tea or get some food out the fridge, you always see that, and it'll just remind you that actually, yes, that's why I'm doing this. And I think that can be quite powerful, in moments when people do feel like they've fallen at the and just don't know what to do now. So they can go back to that commitment statement and think, right, okay, I made that commitment. How can I get myself back on track? So that could be either following through what they were already doing. Maybe it'd be reaching out for support from a healthcare professional to help them get them back on track. But yeah, committing to something. That is a behavior change technique that is quite commonly used. It probably can sound quite daunting for some people to think, oh, I've got to write this statement and I have to commit to it. As I said, we all trip up from time to time, and that's okay. But having it there for you for to sort of remind you of why you started this journey, I think is quite a powerful message.
yeah. So it sounds like these are tools that can be used at the beginning of the journey and
Yeah.
at any point along the journey,
Hmm.
to help people keep going along
Yes.
and working on what they want to achieve. So writing down the values, writing down a commitment, positive
Hmm.
statements and affirmations.
Hmm.
And they sound, it sounds quite, I don't know, it's self-investing, I
Yeah.
kind of think. Because no one else needs to see it, do they?
No, no, no one needs to see it. It can be something that they write down, and keep to themselves. It could even be a note in their phone. So opening the notes app and just putting it into there. But then again, it's remembering to go and revisit that.
Mhm.
But as well as having that, if someone does slip up, it's having those problem solving behavior change techniques as well. So having an action plan or a coping plan, for example. So if they have a relapse, there's certain points when they tend to relapse. It could be that they're going on holiday, they want to let loose, they don't want to worry about restricting themselves in any way. It could be that they've had a stressful day. It could be that it's coming up to Christmas season again. They want to go out with their work friends, go and have lavish meals. It could be that Christmas week as well. No one seems to know what day it is between Christmas and New Year's Eve, and there's always something on TV. There's leftover chocolates from Christmas Day. And it's just thinking, okay, that's okay. Have fun, do what you need to do, but then having a plan that you can fall back on and an action plan to think, okay, I'm going to let myself have those couple of days, which is completely fine. We all do that. But then think about how do I get back on track after that period of time or when I come back off holiday. And I think creating these coping strategies can help increase resilience as well.
So I love this idea of a coping toolkit, a coping
Hmm.
mechanism, a coping pack because things always go off, even with the best intentions,
Oh, they do. Yeah.
I remember someone saying to me, stop seeking perfection in an imperfect world because it'll
Hmm.
drive you crazy.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Things go wrong and it might be scary,
Hmm.
but once you're through it, the world
Exactly.
keeps spinning
Yeah.
and just get back on it. I love that idea of a pack. Um, okay. And you mentioned something there.
Hmm.
Oh, there was a word that you said, and it's just passed me. Um,
Was it to do with the relapse?
the resilience.
Oh, the resilience. Yes.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Yes. So I think the more someone goes through something and they are very much, it's in a trial error type of scenario where they're looking at building habits that work for them. Sometimes they don't work, sometimes they do. As an individual goes through and they see these rewards or these challenges, they will start to build resilience,
Mhm,
which I think would make an individual stronger because they will know what works for them. They will know what doesn't work, so they won't go down that avenue again. But with that, it could be that goal setting is something that is done regularly.
mhm,
So we may have the goal of, okay, I want to use GLP-1s to help me lose weight.
mhm,
But that's kind of the end goal. So what are the goals that are you going to put into place to support that weight loss journey yourself? So
mhm,
it could be having that toolkit of options, having these different goals that, okay, maybe by next week, I'm going to speak to a healthcare professional about what are my options. The week after, it could be looking at, well, what do I need to change in terms of maybe lifestyle? And focusing on one thing at a time. I think that's quite key.
mhm,
What I notice is when an individual needs to change multiple behaviors, it can
mhm,
become very overwhelming. And to think, oh, I need to change this, I need to change my exercise levels, I need to move more, I need to eat better. That can be very, very overwhelming. And then that will affect resilience. So, from a behavior change specialist, I think it's about tackling one thing at a time rather than focusing on everything.
okay. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I'm hearing you correctly,
Hmm.
it's doing small new things
Hmm.
repeatedly over a
Yeah.
period of time
Hmm.
builds resilience,
Hmm.
and doing too much at once and maybe not getting very far at all reduces resilience.
Yes,
Is that fair
it
to
can
say?
do. Yeah, if somebody is dealing with multiple failures and every time they try to do something, they're not seeing the improvements, it's going to knock somebody's confidence as well.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, that can have all sorts of effects on mental health, on their willpower. So yeah, I think it's educating people and giving them those tools that they can think, right, I'm going to switch this up and try this today. If that doesn't work, you need to make sure that you're still being kind to yourself. It's not that you're failing, it's the technique that probably isn't right for you.
Mhm.
So it's about changing that.
I guess because we're not iPhones, are we? Where
No.
you plug us in and we get a
Yeah.
software update overnight, and we
Yeah.
come on in the morning and we've got a whole new look
Hmm.
and we do this now and we do that
Yeah.
and you can do whatever. It's not how we work. It's
It's
not
not.
how we operate. It's almost a bit tortoise and a hare, isn't it?
It is. It
Okay.
is. And I think that's quite important in terms of people using weight loss injections for a quick fix.
Mm,
It's that we're not, like you say, the tortoise or hare. We're not trying to get to that end goal as quick as we can. We're looking at this from a sustainable point of view. So how can we create longer term behavior change that will then sustain that weight loss over many years to come? So, yeah, for me, it's not about getting to that point as quick as you can. It's thinking about, right, how can I continue with this weight loss journey? How can I continue enhancing my own health or linking it again back to the values of I want to be able to run around with the children for many years to come? And I think that links to sort of identity. So I think that's another core value within behavior change techniques
mm,
is asking someone to think about the shift in identity. So it could be that they're not a very active individual, and what they want to do is change their identity to I'm the kind of person who will go for a walk daily. And it's then about creating that identity to match the sort of statements that you would create.
I love that. I love you're almost like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. Like
Yeah.
it's becoming the person that you want to
Yes.
be that
Hmm.
has the health or the goals
Yeah.
that you
Hmm.
want to have.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so if someone is here this evening or they're listening on a
Hmm.
podcast weeks from now and they're on this journey and maybe they've hit a bit of a rough spot, maybe things aren't going to plan, as you mentioned, a common term that we might use is gone off track or gone off plan. And
Hmm.
they're thinking, oh, how do I get back? How do I almost get back to the mindset?
Hmm.
Then, you've shared with us some tools already about writing down the values, what means something to you,
Hmm.
writing down commitment and positive affirmations and positive statements. But
Hmm.
then you've just shared another one with us as well, like writing down your identity
Yeah.
of not just who you are, but who you want to be as well.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
completely. And I think thinking about people who might slip up, it's about reframing those setbacks. So a lapse, a relapse, it's not a failure. It's just a stumble in the road. And this can then obviously support persistence. It can then create resilience as well. So I think it's very much about trying to change someone's mindset or reframe what has happened. And I know that can be very difficult. I know that when I've gone through something really tough and your mental health is really low, it's quite hard to just think, well, okay, I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to be positive all of a sudden. It is very difficult. And I know that from firsthand experience. But I think it's about allowing you to have that time to think about it. Why is it making you feel like this? Thinking that this is temporary and then thinking, well, actually, what can I do to reframe this? So, okay, I've stumbled. Maybe I've not stuck to my diet or maybe my physical activity that I had planned this week. That doesn't mean I've failed. I'm still in the mindset of I'm wanting to do something. But I do think when somebody thinks that they failed, they know how important this is to themselves. And I think they've already unconsciously thought about, well, actually, I do need to get back on track because they're saying that they've already failed.
Mhm.
So they know that technically there is a track to get back onto.
Yeah.
So I do think it's around reframing it, that it's a lapse and it's not a failure, and that okay, sitting with it and knowing that, okay, I may have taken a day off from something or I've eaten something that I shouldn't, but tomorrow is a new day. And it's very much around positive psychology and positive mindset. And it can be hard and it can take time to develop these type of skills. Like these things that I'm talking about, they're not something someone would develop overnight. These are things that you would need to continue working on. It can take months. For some people, it can take years. But I think if you're still committed to making a change, then you've already won because you're already in that mindset of wanting to make a change. And I think that will keep you going.
As you say, like a setback, it's not the end of the journey.
It's not.
It's very much part of it.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
expected. It happens to everybody, even the people that don't tell you that it
Yeah.
happens.
Hmm. Yeah, and I
It does.
think as well, if you think about social media and
Mm,
the way everyone's lives are portrayed, especially influencers, that everything goes to track. Everyone puts something online when they've done something good, but you don't necessarily see the setbacks or the
mm.
journey that it took to get to that position. So it's about being mindful about what you see online isn't always reality. So I do think it's important to think about that as well.
So would you say there's benefit in almost protecting yourself from social media a little bit, especially when it comes to, weight loss journey stories they're very attractive, they're very
Hmm.
seductive,
Hmm.
but it sounds like we definitely need to take a pinch of salt because we're not seeing the bad days a lot of the time.
Hmm. Yeah, we're not seeing the bad days people are having. We're not seeing maybe potential side effects that they're experiencing. We're just seeing the positive side of their life or their journey that they want us to see. And I do advocate for more people being open if they're comfortable, sharing their experiences, because there will be other people out there be like, I feel the exact same way, or I had the same thing happen to me. And I think that is a little bit more positive. But getting to that is a completely different conversation. So, yeah, I do think it's about protecting yourselves from social media and thinking, okay, this is fantastic, but yes, is it everything? Are we seeing the reality as it happens? And we're probably not.
Yeah. So if someone's here tonight and they're thinking, right, okay, I know that, maybe I don't have all these tools, I'm
Hmm.
just starting out,
Hmm.
they could almost do, something really, really simple like put pen to paper and
Yes.
write down a commitment statement. Or
Yes.
they could write down something positive about themselves.
Hmm.
Um, you mentioned there about reframing as well.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's quite often in my practice, I ask people to talk to themselves like they would talk to their best friend
Yes.
or their son or their daughter or their partner.
Hmm.
Because I know for a lot of people instinctively, we're our own worst critic.
Completely.
But for someone else, we are the most understanding, the
Yeah.
kindest, the most positive, and we
Yeah.
just forget to use that voice with ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. I think people can be very harsh on themselves, and they're brilliant at giving advice to a friend or a colleague or a family member, but they maybe don't practice what they preach. They don't listen to themselves. They don't be sort of it's the kindness for themselves may not be there as it is for other people. So I do think it's about, well, what would you tell a friend to do? Or what advice would you give a friend? And then apply that yourself. But again, as I say, these techniques, they take time to develop and it'll work one day, the next day it may not. So it's about that trial and error and thinking about what works for them individually.
And if we sort of like, we're kind of in the thick of it here, but if we take a step back
Yeah.
and we think about a weight loss journey with weight loss injections,
Hmm.
um, it sounds like these tools and techniques that people are practicing, they're practicing all the way along the journey with weight loss injections, and they go alongside it. They work with it, they complement it.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yes. I would agree with that. I think that's what should happen. As I said about the identity, that will change as someone goes through a weight loss journey. That identity is going to change, and I think it's important to note that people may struggle with that identity and it changing, and with the injections maybe changing so quickly. And it's about how do they adapt to that. And when we're writing or when people are writing those commitment statements, they might notice they change over time as well, because they'll have different things they want to commit to. So, for example, they may start their weight loss journey with the weight loss injections and they reach sort of their target weight, for example. But then thinking more longer term, what are the things that they want to commit to that will then help sustain that? And a couple of techniques they may want to use is sort of habit formation, so creating new habits, but then also looking at habit stacking. So this is a really common one that I like to share, and it's
Mhm,
where you ask an individual to think about what habits do you do through the day. So, for example, you could have an individual that works from home, and
mhm,
between every meeting, they'll go downstairs and make a cup of tea.
mhm,
What do you do whilst you're making that cup of tea? Most people will probably sit there on their phone, flicking through social media. But can we turn this into a small um, opportunity to do a bit of activity?
mhm.
So I like to use the term snacktivity. So they're like snack physical activity breaks. And
Ah,
it could be that you go downstairs, put the kettle on, and you just simply do 10 sit to stands or
mhm,
squats,
mhm,
or something like that that's just a little bit different to get your
mhm.
blood pumping again and moving through the body. And that will help with reducing sedentary behavior, and then also counter your physical activity. So it's looking at current habits and how can we stack on a new habit to these,
Mhm.
which I find is very useful because it gets people thinking about their routine at present and thinking, well, actually, I could go and add a walk after this meeting or have a walking meeting. So I'm still having my meeting with my manager, but we're going for a walk around the office. So yeah, it's thinking about how can you stack these habits, and then you'll start to see a formation of all these little habits that are all focused on changing behavior for the good.
I love that. Have you trademarked snacktivity?
I haven't. No, I do think that there's other people that use that term.
Oh,
But yeah, I've used it for quite a few years. And when I was teaching health psychology students, master
Mhm,
students about behavior change, I'd be like, right, okay, it's been an hour, let's get up and do some snacktivity. And I'd get different students to stand up and lead like a minute sort of little workout
mhm,
to the students. But yeah, I think it's a brilliant term and something that I always recommend to people. Just snack bites of activity. And
mhm.
even if you do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, you might not notice by the end of the day you've done 20 minutes worth of physical activity. And that's fantastic.
Absolutely. It's every minute counts.
It does. Yes, definitely.
Fantastic. Oh, wow. So, this is, if anybody is listening to this at home, I hope you are, you're writing these down. I'm scribbling down in front of me all these absolute gems that, the tools and the skills that you're talking about. But something that strikes me, we're talking about a change of identity and that the change of behaviors that go along with a weight loss injection.
Yeah.
And there is the change in physical appearance that people notice.
Hmm.
That's part of a weight loss journey, and especially with medications like Mounjaro,
Yeah.
sometimes it's very significant weight loss. And
Hmm.
people say, oh my gosh, you look completely different. People feel different, they move
Yeah.
differently.
Hmm.
Um, and there is a change in an identity, is a change in behaviors.
Hmm.
Is there something there about people around sort of making space for that new identity or those new behaviors, um, and not expecting that person to do exactly the same as they've always done?
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm thinking with this is we have an individual who have taken up weight loss injections. They've not been very active because their body hasn't allowed them to move. It could be that there was a lot of pressure on joints, they got out of breath very quickly, and they had to sit down. What we're finding is that with the GLP-1s, it's not just only unlocking psychological capability, but it's unlocking physical capability. So their capability to actually move more. So there are individuals who are seeing this weight loss, and it's not as such focusing on the weight loss, but the shift to behavior gain so that they're now getting to move more. They can now take part in physical activity. So it could be again, focusing on values, it could be that their goal isn't to lose weight, but shifting it to focus on becoming the kind of person that they would like to be. So I'm hoping that kind of covers what you're thinking. It isn't just physical, it is psychological. It's not just about identity. It seems to be that it's a very fast-paced environment for people that are taking these injections and then losing the weight. And I think that does go beyond identity. I think it could link to sort of like their social opportunities as well, and
Mhm.
maybe how they used to behave in social contexts. That completely changes.
Mhm.
And yeah, that links back to identity. But yeah, does that kind of answer?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely is. And it reminds me of some of the conversations that I have
Hmm.
with people. And, you know, they're almost struggling in certain relationships where people are trying to keep them not in a not in well, kind of in a negative way, but I'm
Hmm.
guessing people don't mean to do this, but they're trying to keep them as the person that they were.
As they are. Yeah.
So if if when I go and do this act, when I go and see this person,
Hmm.
we sit down and we chill out and we binge watch something. And now they're telling me that they want to go for a walk. And that's uncomfortable because I'm expecting an afternoon of sitting down and chilling out.
Hmm.
Um, and it can be sometimes difficult navigating that change with someone.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And it's really important to have that social support on board with the change. That doesn't always practically happen. And as you said, it could be that they want an afternoon sitting down watching the TV. But then as well, it's about sort of changing their behaviors through potentially your patient. And it can be very difficult and it's very complex to navigate. But I think it's really important to have those conversations with people that are important to you, people you live with or are with regularly, to say, well, I'm struggling. It could be that I'm trying to create this new identity for myself. I do need to make sure that you're aware of what I am doing. If you are on board, then that's great. But then it could be that not having that support could be a knockback for that individual. So that can be very, very complex. But I think it's about being open and sort of having that conversation. And it could be that sort of you need to think about, well, how can we get around this? How can we still watch our favorite programs, but then incorporate a nice walk at the same time? So it could be that habit stacking, that maybe after one episode of your favorite show, let's go and have a quick walk around the block or sort of go for a walk around the park. So I think it can be very tricky to navigate, but there are ways of doing it. Again, I think it's just trial and error and just trying to think, okay, what would work for them? What is that compromise for both of us and how can we move forward with it?
Yeah. It sounds like there's no right answer here.
No,
There's lots of answers,
there
which
is.
I
Hmm.
personally love. I love the idea of options,
Yeah.
and having that choice and freedom to move around in that space is
Hmm.
fantastic. So, we're sort of coming to the end of our time together this evening. It is flown by, but I just want to, just review all those nuggets and gems that you've shared with us.
Hmm.
It sounds like there isn't just one technique. There are lots of techniques, there are lots of tools that can help
Hmm.
someone with long-term sustainable weight loss, with building that resilience.
Hmm.
Um, and there's no right way to get into that mindset.
Hmm.
We do expect people to be in the mindset and out of the
Hmm.
mindset.
Hmm.
But as you mentioned, it's about getting back into the
Yeah.
mindset and using the tools to do that. So that might
Hmm.
be the values, it
Yeah.
might be the commitment, it might
Hmm.
be the mantras or the positive statements,
Hmm.
it might be recognizing a new identity for somebody.
Hmm.
And then it might be thinking habit stacking. I love that. That's so good. And what was the snacking, the physical activity snacking?
An activity.
Snacktivity. I
Yeah.
love that. That is excellent. But you painted such a beautiful picture for us there. When we go make a cup of tea, what does our new identity do? What is
Hmm.
that behavior? How does it
Yeah.
reach us, our goal? Reframing setbacks and that sort of kind voice, the voice that we use
Hmm.
for other people, sometimes
Yeah.
forget to use for ourselves.
Yeah.
And all of this is persistence. It's
Hmm.
not going to happen overnight. You know,
Hmm.
I know for a lot of people, they don't, you know, if they're on a weight loss journey, they didn't gain that weight overnight.
Hmm.
It's not going to change overnight. It
Overnight. Hmm.
is very much a long journey ahead, that looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm almost salivating at all these little nuggets. They're fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's
Um,
okay. No, it's, yeah, happy to share some insights. I just think the best mindset for weight loss is one that values small, consistent behavior changes, that focuses on identity over willpower. It uses the environment around them and current behaviors or habits that they do, and then treats the setbacks as part of the process, which I think is really important to recognize.
Fantastic. And Nikita, if people want to come and find you, if
Mhm.
they want to know more about the exciting and wonderful work that you're doing, where can they find you?
Yes, so I'm on LinkedIn, also on Instagram. Yeah, I'm happy for people to get in touch, or if Will, if you're going to share the information, I'm happy for you to share my email address with people. If they'd like to get in touch, then yeah, I'm more than open to have a conversation with anyone about this.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us, for sharing this wonderful information, and just being an absolute pleasure to have a chat with. Thank you, Nikita.
No, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you to everyone that's attended tonight.
Excellent. So, for everyone that's attended tonight, there will be an email coming around very shortly, and there'll be a feedback form. Once you have completed the feedback form, there will be a free document of our We Nutrition top tips for using weight loss injections. There'll also be a link to sign up to the We Nutrition newsletter so you can stay up to date with the latest episodes of WeChats. We've got another WeChats coming at the mid-December point, but that will be released in our newsletter, which is next Monday. So sign up to the newsletter and make sure that you get first and early access to that. And yes, again, thank you so much, Nikita. I'm gonna stop recording.